We now return to Let's Play Suzerain. Okay, well, let's continue on. Invest in Arcasian company stocks. An opportunity to buy stocks from an Arcasian company. A personal investment opportunity has been relayed to Mr. Manger. Gus. An experienced stockbroker in Ventry City, Arcasia, is selling valuable shares of Armadine Industries, an up-and-coming electronic manufacturing company. We could invest or let the opportunity pass. I mean, is this a little bit... It's not necessarily corrupt unless we're getting insider knowledge on this stuff, right? So I only have 2 wealth to play around with here. Yeah, let's just buy 1,000 shares, why not? What now? Oh, what's this? We're still on turn 1. I decided to invest in Armadine Industries. That could come back to bite me, depending on what Armadine actually does. Let's find out. History, locations, organizations, corporations. International? Miscellaneous. Well, I don't know. Anyway. Reception at the inaugural ball. Residence of the President. I had just finished buttoning up my suit jacket when the doorbell rang. The Presidential Guard had arrived to pick us up for the inaugural ball. The ball was a 3-decade-old tradition, breathlessly anticipated by politicians, bureaucrats, and the press. All eyes were about to be on me. I called on Monica to get the children ready. Looking in the mirror, I straightened my tie and took a deep breath. After tonight, there would be no turning back. Suddenly, Diana hugged me from behind, startling me a little. Monica had fixed her hair into an elaborate braid, woven through with ribbons. "Papa, Mama told me it's time to go." Hello, darling, I'm ready. Where's your brother?" "I think Frank is still upstairs." She shrugged. It was almost time to leave. The big ball was starting in less than an hour. "Darling Frank, it's time." Monica came down the stairs. She was wearing a simple yet elegant beige sheath dress and short heels. Her hair had been neatly pinned in a chignon, showing off her pearl earrings that I had given her for our 15th anniversary. All those years she'd stayed by my side. Now we were about to begin the most challenging chapter in our lives yet. "How do you do, Mr. President?" Embrace her. I pulled her into a deep embrace. So, at the very beginning of the game, when we went through sort of the build-up to all of this stuff, one of the decisions I made was to focus on my family as opposed to my political career. So, in keeping with the character, I've written down all of those initial decisions, and I'm going to try and keep it all going. Monica, my love, you look as gorgeous as the day we married. Now there's that charm that got you elected. Remember, I was also part of the debate team. I should also be very charismatic. Frank trudged down the stairs. This thing itches. Frank tugged at the collar of his new tuxedo. He seemed ill at ease. Are you good to go, Frank? Yes, the sooner we go, the sooner it'll be over, right? Papa, are these people going to be around us from now on? She pointed at the presidential guards at the door of the house. These people are our friends, Deanna. It's all right, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa, or his family. Monica held Deanna's hands. Together, flanked by the guards, we walked out the door. Halfway to the car, Frank stopped abruptly and turned towards me. Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay home instead? I'm nervous myself, Frank, but I'd feel a lot more confident with my son by my side. Frank smiled reluctantly. Well, when you put it like that, sure, let's go. The Presidential Guard showed us the way as red and blue lights flashed around us. Sergei, my driver, ushered us into our armored limousine. The motorcade started moving towards the palace. I gazed out the window, deep in thought. Anton, what are you thinking about? I was thinking that we've come a long way together, haven't we? Yes, we have, and there's still so much that we'll accomplish, side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm going to help Papa fix everything. Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. This means a great deal to me. After what seemed like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Sergei rolled down the limousine's soundproof partition. We're here, sir. Hope you enjoyed the drive. Do we want to be overly familiar or more formal? I feel like having the people around me be loyal and trustworthy and all that, but we don't necessarily want to be too trustworthy. We don't actually know if Sergei is how he feels about me. Let's just go somewhat formally neutral. I did, Sergei, thank you. Always a pleasure to hear that. Sergei opened the door for me. The normally imposing palace was festooned with garish banners that nearly made it look cheerful. A line of shiny luxury sedans stretched around it. Politicians, bureaucrats, and celebrities, the creme de la creme of the Sordland elite, streamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. See you on the trip home. I stepped out and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones my way. My guards fended off most of them, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognized the Sordland Broadcasting Company logo on her press lanyard. Can't talk to her. Mr. President, now, the Sordland Broadcasting Company, isn't that, what's-his-face's dealy-do? Organizations. Why aren't half of these things in here? Let's look at people. Business. Karanti. HOS. Yes, Sordland yeah. Okay. So this is what's-his-face's deal. Mr. President, do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reforms? Let's put it in their court. If the opposition's willing to support us, it's a very political answer, right? Like, oh, we're willing to do it, but we have to know the others are going to do it. Or, we're going to work with everybody. There we go. Big tent. Mr. Richter clarified that as long as you hold your promises of democratization, they will support you on these issues to the end. What do you think about this statement? Well, I mean, she's saying that. We have to verify that. Let's not get ourselves in too deep here. We're going to a party. I can't comment since I haven't seen this statement yet. One more question. One of your first acts as president was to veto a campaign finance law that would have deprived small parties of public funds while increasing those channeled to your own. Are we seeing the beginning of a more egalitarian administration? Yes, no political party deserves to be silenced. That's enough, ma'am, says one of my guards while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and we quickly made our way to the entrance of the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. That realistically doesn't seem like very many. The entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons in Sordland's colors of white, yellow, and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. Behind me, I heard a familiar voice. There they are, the most beautiful family in Sordland. Uncle Peter! Hi, Uncle Peter. It's great to see you. You two are growing faster than I am getting wiser. I mean, let's be friendly here. Who exactly? He's our friend. He's like our old friend. You're a sight for sore eyes, Peter. Likewise. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Evelyn. Peter's wife Evelyn approached us and shook our hands with a firmness that belied her delicate features. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say the results were clear to me from the beginning. I mean, we could be inclusive of her, sure. Thank you. We both worked hard to make it happen. We know you did. You deserve the position. And tonight, we reap the rewards. We can start by getting some drinks. You read my mind. Peter grinned and beckoned a roving waiter. The four of us each took a glass of champagne. Monica, how are you? You've barely said a word. I'm more than relieved to have this roller coaster ride over with, but of course, now the real work begins. Ah, yes, the managing, the help, planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look your best for foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my power as First Lady to advance the position of women throughout Sordland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue. Wouldn't you say, Anton? Absolutely. We'll work together to achieve that. By including women, we're going to include half the election population, so, I mean, why not? Aside from the fact that it is morally correct, I mean, we would be stupid to be old-fashioned. That's not our party, anyway. Monica flashed me a smile. Deanna suddenly jumped in between us and tugged on my sleeve. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom. All right, it's time. Let's go. Move to the ballroom. We left the lobby and made our way towards the ballroom. Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Sordland. I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining various conversations, some serious, some superficial, and making speeches. We finally settled down at our dinner table with the Vecturns as the band started playing some slow jazz tunes. Oof, that was tiring. Well, we'll have to get used to it. Well, suddenly, a loud banging noise echoed from outside the ballroom, then another one, and another. The musicians stopped playing. Everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I turned towards each other, realization dawning on both our faces. Fireworks? No, gunshots! As soon as Monica heard the word, she lunged from her seat. Shield the family. I threw myself on Monica, Deanna, and Frank to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some guests flung themselves under the tables and others ran towards the door, screaming. Deanna burst into tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out loudly. Carl Grieser. Carl Grieser is the Sordish police officer and administrator who is the current police chief of Greater Holsword. He assumed the position sworn in by Mayor Graff prior to his appointment. Okay. From Arvery, so he's up north. Strategies and tactics for reducing crime and solving concerns of the diverse communities of Arvery. Okay. Mr. President, are you all right? Carl Grieser, oh, here we go. Head of the Sordish police force was running towards us with 3 more police officers in decorated uniforms. They all had their guns drawn. As soon as he made it to us and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God. Check the perimeter. He turned around quickly to his men. Check the perimeter now. Paul, Jansen, follow my lead. We'll bring them to the safe room. He now turned to Monica, Evelyn, and the children and spoke in a softer voice. Not worry, the situation is now under control. Please follow me. We promptly followed Carl through the winding halls and corridors of the palace. His men still had their guns drawn, which did nothing to ease the tension. On the way, Peter made an attempt to break the silence. What a fucking night. It's not over yet. Carl turned to us with a serious face as we were about to round a corner. Quiet, please. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped a switch on the wall and a panel opened, revealing a hidden staircase leading to a large, reinforced door. Inside, a set of emergency lights flickered on. The safe room was comfortable and spacious, with expensive-looking leather sofas. Small security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. There was a boardroom and a pantry containing enough provisions to last us months. Monica and Evelyn sat the children down and started wiping their tears. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to me and Peter. Okay, we don't want to be panicky or insulting to the people who not only are vital to saving my bacon, but also know all the secret passages of the palace. I'm really tempted to be like, this is cool guy walking away from an explosion kind of sarcastic here, but let's just be formal. So what's the status? Carl's radio suddenly crackled to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When it fell silent, he turned to us. Good news. We are not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with and the perimeter has been secured by the guards and the police. He glanced towards Monica, Evelyn, and the kids. If I may, sir. He gestured towards a more private corner of the room and started speaking more quietly. This is what we know so far. We've confirmed that 2 people were gunned down in front of the palace. The attacker is one of them, and we have reasons to believe he was working alone. He fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Presidential guards at the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. He has not been identified yet and will require an investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as Bernard Circus. The communist poet, okay. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter pulled out 2 cigarettes and handed me one. He then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him trying to reassure her that everything was going to be all right. Monica was still trying to tend to Diana and Frank, as Frank paced the room, mumbling that he should have stayed home. Comfort the family. I sat down beside my wife and children. We're safe. I'll make sure everything's going to be fine. Can't be sure of anything anymore, Anton. I lit my cigarette and took a deep drag. I was going to see this through and keep my family safe. At all costs. I crushed the cigarette on the ashtray. Okay. Well, that's fun. Any news? Just local news. Okay. Sordland today. Rayne opened to talk. President Rayne signaled a possible cooperation with Franz Richter of the PFJP ahead of the inauguration ball. Regarding the remarks of Richter about a possible cooperation to fix the current problems of Sordish political institutions, the president chose to make no comments. Richter has long been vocal about his democratization plans, but maybe his demands for constitutional change might finally become a reality if President Rayne leads a bill together with Richter's PFJP. We're going to have to learn more about his party and exactly what they want. MP shot. Nation in shock. Sordland has been shocked by grave news today as an elected member of parliament has been shot dead in a suspected political assassination. Police sirens were heard around the clock today as the whole Sword police force increased security measures around the capital. The fact that such a violent act happened at the heart of the capital during the new president's inauguration celebrations has worried many citizens. The Red Youth is reported to have promised revenge. Well, okay, so they would have my back, seeing as how I was once a member of them. In my college days, this seems like it has the potential to be a spark that would swirl Sordland into the political violence of the 20s. Any further here? I guess not. Read the report. Security increased. Security measures at the capital have been heightened after the murder of Bernard Circus. The mayor of Holsword reports that everything is under control. Security around the Maroon Palace has been increased with the combined efforts of the Holsword Police Department and the Presidential Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised with advice from security professionals. The police chief, Carl Grieser, reported that an investigation has been launched on the murder of Bernard Circus. Emergency meeting, Situation Room of the Maroon Palace. The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Lilius presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of assembly. Oh, he was a politician. And as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last word out with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organization the Young Swords. Right-wing nationalist organization with alleged connections to a number of armed attacks against the government. They're a youth organization that has close ties to the National Front Party, and it's been described as its militant wing. Members deny its political nature and claim it only to be a cultural and education foundation. Established by General Luderin, the fascist, in 1927, rose to prominence during the Civil War when its members engaged in urban guerrilla warfare with left-wing activists and militants. Scholars have described it as a death squad, responsible for most of the violence and killings in this period. A staunchly pan-swordist organization, in the early 30s, the Young Swords have managed to extend their area of operation into Swordish-speaking post-revolution Vogsland. The organization has long been a prominent suspect in investigations into the Swordish deep state, and is suspected of having close dealings in the past with police forces and the judiciary branch. Fun to deal with. The president and his family were unharmed, praise God. I mean, we could do this, but they're basically the same question, just different wording. Why Bernard? He has always been an infamous figure. His poems had a large impact on the spread of communist ideas in Sordland. Many considered him a threat. Our investigators are suspecting a political assassination since the Young Swords have been threatening the communists for some time. This sets a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 20s might spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Mia Morgna, the Minister of Justice, politician and attorney from Bergia, serves as Minister of Justice and Law, became a member of the party in 1949, served as Vice Minister of Justice during the Alfonso administration. Before her career, she worked as an attorney in Dare and also taught law. Though she came from a wealthy family, they lost their assets in the nationalization in the 30s. Mia was a strong critic of Sol's programs and vocal about her opposition to the Supreme Court's authority on state matters. Due to her expertise on law, she was appointed by Alfonso as Vice Minister of Law in 1949. During her role as Vice Minister, she is credited to the de facto running of the Ministry of Justice under heavy pressure from the Solist elements in the administration. She earned her reputation from her fight against corruption in the ministry among protests from the Supreme Court. She is regarded as one of the most experienced attorneys to work for the government. She eventually gave her support to Rayne. Okay, so she would be good for the fight here for constitutional change. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our Constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. Well, I mean, yes. So I fully agree we should protect freedom of speech. Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We had that before and know very well how it was. I hear your concerns. Our police do their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We will prevent such an act from happening again by making sure our security measures are reevaluated. Interior, right, okay. Minister of Defense Josef Lancia grunted in approval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Serves Ministry of Defense, member of the party since 1929. He held Inspector General of the Army, to the Swordish, serving directly under Chief of Staff. He was captain during the Sordland Civil War, served under Sol, gained nationwide fame for his heroism and accomplishments as a major during the Wayland Civil War. That's something we'll have to read about. Became a popular figure after the war, still well respected among nationalists. He's credited for several major operations, known to be an influential figure in the armed forces. been promoting the reformation of the army into a professional rather than conscripted force. He was a critic of Alfonso's policies and gave his support to Rayne and lobbied for major conservative support in the 53 elections. Okay. Agreed, ma'am. Our gendarmerie, an armed law enforcement organization which maintains security, safety, and public order in rural regions and executes duties ascribed by other laws. The gendarmerie is subordinate to the Ministry of Defense. Are these guys armed police then? Is that what I'm reading? Or are they a paramilitary force? What the fuck? It survived until today. After the Republic was proclaimed, the stations began to serve people in the most remote parts of the country in addition to carrying out security and public order duties. During Seoul's term as president, most people began to identify it with the state itself. That might be something we to deal with, I don't know. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. But it is political. But we do need to calm the situation. But we do need to... I mean, this is a political thing. Like, we can't just... Alright. I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, we just need to calm the situation. It's reminiscent of the last job I had, where management's playbook was, if I don't hear a problem, there are no problems. Like, that's kind of what this feels like. You know, let's just calm everybody down and then it'll all go away, but it won't. Like, we need to address the fact that this is going to be a problem. Yes, but we need to calm the country. If we take sides, we could escalate the situation further. There aren't many sides, the state versus its enemies. Okay, Joseph. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation on all involved parties is underway. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I will do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. I mean, let's not lose sight of the fact that, I mean, these two go together, right? I feel like I need to point this out, though. Like, our reforms are aimed at long-term fixing of tensions. This is also a more diplomatic thing, because this right here seems to directly address him, so it's like we're putting him down. Let's go with this one. We should not lose sight of our real political goals, like the constitutional reforms. Agreed. These matters shouldn't distract us from what the people want us to do. Lucian took some notes after checking the last newspapers and reports. It seems that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country. Be upbeat without promising anything? We will make it through this and deliver on our promises. Hell yes, President Rayne. This will be it for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all, and keep us updated. The meeting concluded, and the ministers left the room with concerned looks. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. News 1. Lockhaven Times. Murder at the Palace. Breaking news. Bernard Circus, a prominent independent MP known for his communist romanticism, has been murdered, leaving the Maroon Palace grounds after the inauguration ball of Anton Rayne. Reports indicate a politically motivated assault, or assassination, by the far-right nationalists of the Young Swords. Shocking photographs have been leaked to the press showing blood-dripped stairs of the Maroon Palace. We heavily condemn this sort of political violence. This is the very cycle the president must break with reforms. I agree. And that, after, what, 4 or 5 episodes now, is the end of the first turn. Okay. A few days later. Go on. This is a text-based game. How much goddamn time does it need to load? Okay. Well, lots to read, so we'll probably do that and finish the episode. Let's look at the news. Sordish politician shot dead. A Sordish poet and politician who had spoken out about the idea of the dictatorship of the proletariat was shot during the evening of Anton Rayne's inauguration ball. Bernard Circus, a 53-year-old Sordish member of Assembly, was shot a number of times by a gunman at the entrance of the Maroon Palace, who was identified to be a member of the Young Swords. Despite his radical views, Mr. Circus was elected to be an independent member of Assembly in the 1953 elections and sadly did not manage to live long enough to serve his duty. He was said to have repeatedly received threats from Sordish nationalists, who viewed him as a traitor for promoting millennialism in Sordland. Television footage showed the famous poet's body lying face down, draped with a white sheet on the pavement in front of the gates of the Maroon Palace. Lilias Graff, the Interior Minister, said she had assigned a group of leading ministry officials to lead the hunt for the killers. Once again, dark hands have chosen our country and spilled blood in cold sword to achieve their dark goals, she told the news conference. We are investigating all aspects of this crime. His funeral will be held tomorrow in his home city of Dare. The local police have reported to have increased security measures for the ceremony and stand ready for a massive attendance. Sordland today. Unity despite differences. Sordland has two paths to the future, and this year is critical to decide which path we embark upon. Amid a recession, the lack of stability and security caused by the death of Bernard Circus is an unacceptable reality. We need more jobs and a safe environment if our country is supposed to grow and prosper. But how will we increase our employment and open new factories if there is blood flowing down the streets? Sordland will never reach its goals as an advanced society if we descend in a downward spiral of a splintering of our nation. Peace and prosperity now and forever. Lockhaven Times. Murder was a method of the past. The tensions between the left and right extremists have increased in the country after the assassination of MP Bernard Circus. Protests of millennialist groups quickly turn into riots around the country. We are calling for peaceful protests and dialogue instead of violence. After the attack that prompted the riots, a member of Young Swords assassinating a member of After the attack that prompted the riots, a member of Young Swords... Why is this quoted? A member of Young Swords assassinating a member of Assembly clearly shows that we are willing to use extreme actions, said Franz Richter in a speech. What the hell? You've got some grammar problems going on here. Said Franz Richter in his speech in the Grand National Assembly. We live within these borders together, and therefore we all bear a responsibility, a duty to live together with our differences. Richter's unifying message is something that we should all listen to in these times of danger of loss. The murder was a method of the past, and it has tainted us, reminded us of who we were before and who we don't want to become in the future, said Richter, and stated that we as the citizens of this nation all bear a responsibility beyond ideologies, partisanship, or any other identity. Farewell, Bernard Circus. It is a sad moment for Sordland. We have lost a renowned poet who not only wrote about the struggles of the working class but also acted on them. However, his decision to enter Sordish politics was met with a sick attack that ended his life. This was indeed intended as a message to all opposing voices in Sordland. We, the team here at the Radical, condemn this evil act of terror of the Young Swords, who we believe must be held accountable as a whole group. It is finally the time for the government to realize this organization is a terrorist threat and serve the justice that is due. Bernard Circus is always going to be in our hearts as a great Sordish poet, as a revolutionary, as leader of the Sordish and avant-garde, as a futurist, a romantic, as a millennialist, but beyond all, a symbol of freedom of speech. He is now a man who was murdered for speaking his mind. This cannot remain as yet another political murder of the sad reality of Sordland. In fact, it is time to change this. It is time to speak up, as people. The most beautiful sea hasn't been crossed yet, said the great poet, reminding us to always have hope, and we must strive to have hope and make them a reality. It is the best way to honor his memory. Bernard's Circus will be laid down in Dare tomorrow. Any citizen who wants to pay respects is invited to attend. The Economists. The only way out of recession, bailing out businesses. Sordland's economy has been displaying a downward trend over the past 2 years of Alfonso's presidency. If we want to prevent our country from declaring bankruptcy, declaring bankruptcy. We need a way out of this recession, and we need it now. The economic downturn keeps hitting hard at the businesses which are struggling to stay afloat. It is clear that a helping hand from the government is required to control the situation. There is no other way apart from bailing out businesses to truly provide relief to the economy. This in turn would revitalize the economy by creating more employment opportunities and increasing production in Sordland. So, you say. Agnolia. Horton critiques trade. The leader of Agnolia has diplomatically critiqued the imbalance of trade between our countries. Concerns were raised over how much more Sordland profits from net trade in comparison to Agnolia. Prime Minister Martin van Horten requests a fair re-evaluation of existing treaties and future negotiations. Okay, when do we get to that part? When do we get to the national policy thing? Because it seems like we're not going to get very far if we're only able to make a few decisions every other turn. Nothing there. Smolak warns traitors. The latest diplomatic message from the leader of Wayland warned us regarding a pathway from the mountains of Bergia that allowed traitors of the state to escape to Sordland. President Victor Smolak has demanded the border security be increased. He also sent his best wishes about handling the protest in Sordland. What does that mean? Neutral with us. With a weak military. Extraordinarily hospitable despite lower living standards. Civil and political freedoms are somewhat limited due to strict government policies focused on stability. Alright. It's a fragile country. Suzerain. Young Sword's youth wing leader dead after a terror attack. Oh my. Local Young Sword's youth wing leader in Urizen, Jack Torian, or Toiren, has claimed responsibility for the organized attack in the Bloodish market that resulted in the death of 7. His base of operations have been raided, and he was found dead inside with 2 bullet wounds to the back of the head. The scene was organized to make it look like a suicide. Yeah. 2 bullets to the back of the head is one hell of a suicide. We were not able to get information about the location of other ringleaders connected to the terrorist attack. Illegal KA-74s seized. A cache found with Rumberg-made weapons include the 46 KA-74s, 3,000 bullets, 12 handguns, 27 grenades, and bomb-making equipment was found in the basement of an abandoned house in Suzerain. No suspects have been detained. The investigation is ongoing to determine the origins of the equipment. Narble. Police understaffed. Narble has reported that it is currently too understaffed to deal with the ongoing political violence. Due to the small size of the police force in the city, they've been working non-stop, and a number of officers were sent to the hospital as a result of severe fatigue. Minister of the Interior Lilius Graf has been working with head of police Karl Grieser to address the issue. So I wonder if these are all consequences of not going with law enforcement at the very beginning of the game. Ribbery. Illegal firearms found in Communist Party office. The Ribbery Police Department raided the local Communist Party office after alleged attacks organized by one of their members and found illegal firearms in the office. The building has been closed and 22 members of the Communist Party of Sordland have been detained. Estord. Police overburdened in Estord. We've been receiving reports of a lack of equipment and staff from the police forces of Estord. With the escalating violence in the city, the officers have been working 12-hour shifts to suppress the protests to no avail. The police commissioner of Estord has requested reinforcements and extra supplies of tear gas from nearby cities. Okay, well, I think we're probably being a little bit pressured here from the west, it seems. Jen. Weapons seized in a cultural center. Local police forces report that a wardrobe full of heavy military equipment was seized in a Young Swords cultural center in Jen. Regulars of the palace denied having any knowledge about the weapons. The owners of the building have been detained along with 13 other people. Police captured 22 rifles and 2 machine guns. The equipment belonged to the Swordish Armed Forces, dated 1929, but kept in very good condition. Down in Volgan, Communist Party leader suspected of a bomb attack. At 11:48 a.m., an unattended bag in front of the NFP office in Volgan was destroyed by the police on suspicions of a bomb threat, which were then verified. Upon further investigation, the Communist Party leader of Volgan, Milthanu, had been arrested in connection to the incident. Okay, we got some shit going on. Well, I guess we're going to end it here, and we'll continue on next time.